Hi, everybody. You're welcome. And my name is Paul O'Halloran, Pathway Teaching. I do the shamanic work. And I just want to share with you an experience on soul retrieval. Lots of times I get asked to do soul retrieval work for people. Some people think sometimes that if they hear about soul retrieval and they think by just having soul retrieval that things will rectify their life. It will in a lot of cases, but lots of times what we need to do is to heal the source of the energy that has caused the soul retrieval initially. And by doing that, we make way for the soul to come back. So what I'm going to do in this video is just to talk to you about soul retrieval. All I can tell you about soul retrieval are my own experiences, no one else's experiences. I'm not, I can only draw my own stuff that, and from my teachers that taught me, but also through the years, I've learned different techniques and different ways. And in some way, I want to share some of this stuff with you and to put it out there so that if there's other practitioners listening as well, that it may help them in some way to make the thing easier. And by doing that, we can fulfill people's life. So if you just give me a second now, we'll see, can I share the screen with you and we get going with this presentation. Okay. Getting good at this stuff. Okay, let's see. All right. So you're welcome. And so here we go. You're very welcome. So what we're going to look at it today, what is soul retrieval? And I'm going to look at it from my own experience and my own energy from doing soul retrieval for people, and also being taught by different teachers and different modalities on how to do it. How do we lose the soul? You know, when we say to people, will say to you that wouldn't really be familiar with this kind of energy stuff. How do you mean lose your soul, lose part of it? We'll discuss that. The different types of soul loss. There's different types, different categories. What I'm going to do is going to go through them with you in as much detail as possible, but still keeping it simple so that you get a fair idea of what's going on. Going to look at the Cauldrons, and you might well ask, what the hell have the Cauldrons to do with soul retrieval? But I found out over the years the Cauldrons play a big part in soul retrieval. How do we heal soul loss? So I'll give you how we do it and what we do to heal it. And then at the end, I will just bring it through a few examples of different types of soul loss that we've encountered in our journey, let's say. So here we go. So what is soul retrieval? So soul retrieval is when we, through traveling into the different worlds, the world of spirit, bring back parts of the soul that are lost or missing. So, but how do soul parts get lost, or how do they become missing, or whatever you want to call it? Basically through trauma. Sometimes when we experience a trauma in our life, in some way or other, the pain is so great for us that part of our soul leaves our body and it goes into the other worlds or to another place. So it's not part of us. And what we actually do, we'll be looking at it in detail in a little while, is we spend a lot of our life trying to find that part of us again. And we'll explore that. So soul retrieval can be for a person, an animal, a place, or a spirit. Some people only think that soul parts work coming back to people, but animals can experience some trauma. Now, lots of times with animals, when they experience the trauma, I've had experience. I'll give you one experience about an animal. It's where there was a horse in a place, and they actually were unable to tame the horse in a way. But the horse had the spirit of a person on his back. He was a soldier in another life. And that horse was his horse in that life. They both had been traumatized. And the fact that the spirit of the person, the soldier, was still on the horse and the person were still experiencing the trauma to an extent. So it meant soul retrieval for both and to release the energy of the spirits of both in a way. So it sorted the person out, the soul out, and sorted the horse out. But I will say very quickly as well that lots of times with animals can be traumatized through the loss of a loved one or something like that, especially with dogs and cats and pets. And part of their soul really goes with them, because lots of times when you connect with the person in the other world that are lost too, you invariably, sometimes you'll find that a cat or a dog, or like one time I had a donkey with a guy, and it was his favorite donkey. An aspect of them goes with them. So a part of that animal is missing. A place, you may well ask, how does a place need soul retrieval? It needs soul retrieval very simply because when there's trauma on the land or on the place, the trauma can be where something, war, conflict, something like that will leave a big imprint on the land and leave a piece of it missing. But also, I found in my work that sometimes when people live on that aspect of the land, they become attached to it, but the land also becomes attached to them. So sometimes when they cross over or they leave, there can be a process where there's a sense of loss with the land, and that land needs an aspect of it brought back. Or sometimes, you'll find the person will, they might leave somewhere, say, you leave home, and you move off in your life. You're always thinking about home. There's always something happening. You're homesick. Well, in a way, you're homesick for the land, and that land could be calling you back, but the land is also homesick for you. So in a lot of aspects, when we do the healing and do the stuff, you'll see what we do with the cauldrons after a while. It's to help to balance that and to bring balance and energy back to the land and to the place, so there can be a sense of loss with it as well. Okay, and spirit, of course, very simply, sometimes when people cross over, I'll talk about it later in my talk as well, but when people cross over, there can be an aspect of them missing in this life or another life, and sometimes they can be waiting for that. And when for those of you that cross spirits over, sometimes you'll see a little boy standing beside them or a little girl or something. Now that could be children that they lost in a life, but it could also be, you got to check this out, a soul part from another life or from that life that they left behind. But always, what my intention is when they're being crossed over, that whatever is needed for them will be given to them, i.e. that their ancestors can look after them and give them the healing, or direct them to that place where the healing is needed. So how do we do soul retrieval? Well, as I said to you earlier on, soul retrieval is done, because of trauma that happens in a life, a sense of loss in some way. So what do we do? As shamans, we travel into the other worlds and into the worlds where the soul parts seem to go. So it's our job when we go there to connect with that soul part, to tell them that everything, or her, that everything is okay, that it's time for you to come home, that the person you're doing the thing for is waiting for us, and usually it comes. And then when it's done, we bring it back. We have tools with us, which we receive in our training, to bring it back, and we blow it back into that person, so that person hopefully can become whole again. But you see, with people, I always try to look for the original soul loss, the first one. And the first one is the biggest one, I believe, because it happens sometimes, and it can happen very, very simply. It can happen when you're very young, when someone even shouts at you and they frighten you in a way. And what you actually do, an aspect of you can be lost in that moment. And lots of times when you're doing that, when we journey back into it, we can see the person and we say, do you remember something happened to you 2 or 3 or 4 years of age? And they say, no, I don't really remember. Well, because in that moment, something did happen. And what actually happens is we kind of block it, and that's our survival instinct. You know, what I'm talking about here is not something very major, like abuse or something like that, but something very trivial. But when you're that age, something very trivial can be very, very big. And it can affect a soul aspect or a soul loss. So then, you know, lots of times we will see the little soul bit as a young little child, and it's our job to bring it back and to blow that energy. We blow it in through the heart and through the crown. That's the traditional way, but things have kind of changed for me in a way since. So I'm going to share that energy with you within a few minutes. So as we move on, we just want to look at why do we lose the soul, or what are the symptoms? These are a few of them here. So, you know, of course, we lose the stuff through trauma, as I said to you earlier on. And the trauma, you know, sometimes we're affected by trauma. The trauma that could be major to me may not be major to someone else. And that way, so you never judge the level of trauma, but trauma is the light. So lots of times that when we're looking at people and they're telling us their story and what's going on in their life, these are some of the things that may present themselves. So when they do present themselves, we're kind of on the track of soul retrieval, or to heal the thing. Addictions. The addictions can be to food, sex, drink, whatever. You know, you can be addicted to a lot of things. And the addictions really are what you're trying to do is to fill that need, you know, drugs as well, of course, is to fill that need in you. To make you feel whole. So what you're actually doing, and with most of the stuff that I'm going to talk you down through, what we're talking about is loss. And it's filling that loss, or filling that hole, and filling that emptiness. Sometimes holding on to things, afraid to let go, hoarding stuff, memories, things like that, because you're kind of stuck in a space, and you're stuck in that energy, or stuck in that holding place. You can't move up, you can't move down, but you're holding on. You're holding on to stuff, to memories, to all that kind of stuff, and you keep playing them around in your mind. Numb or dead, put down, and I call that really walking dead. And most people that are on the spiritual path will have walked through that gate, I can tell you. And that's where you get up in the morning, you just do your thing, and you go to bed at night. You have nothing to look forward to all day. There's no feeling in you. There's no nothing. You feel you have absolutely no point in life. There's no joy. There's no nothing. It's just walking dead. You're just boom, 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 with the head down all the time. I remember when I was in that state, I found it very, very hard to look people in the eye. I just kept my head down all the time, and I wouldn't shave. And I don't know how I got through it, but look, it's part of who we are. So it was a major aspect of me missing. There was no life. I had no soul purpose, no nothing. I just had, I call it walking dead. Multiple personalities. That's where, you know, and that happens in our life, and lots of times when we talk about multiple personalities, sometimes I've heard Ronan Rooney in his talks call us actors, and I can agree very, very, you know, agree with him fully in that aspect when he talks about actors, because lots of times in life we pretend to be different people to different people. We act one way when we go to work. We act another way when we're with friends. We act another way when we're people maybe we don't like, we act another way with our partners, we act another way with their kids. So it's kind of like multiple personality thing, and it's all pretense, but we're not really coming from that place of truth within ourselves. So, you know, it's our vulnerability, it's our fear. We have to act this way to pretend to these people to be accepted. And really, in all the different modalities, that's what we're doing. But really what we're not doing is we're not accepting ourselves. So our perception, our outlook is, these people see us this way, so I'll pretend to be that person. But really, it's not coming from the soul, it's not coming from yourself. And you only can keep that up all the time. Illness, always sick, running from one little sickness to another. It's kind of part of the problem, not part of the solution. And it's kind of like, you know, no more dead again, or holding on to something. Like sometimes you see people, kind of the only way they feel they can get recognition or be seen is when they have a story. And the story is, you know, I'm sick, I have this, I have that. So it kind of gravitates people or energy to them. But really, again, it's the hole inside they're trying to fill. That hole, that, you know, that's that part of them that's missing, and that's what they're looking for. So first of all, you know, we spend a lot of time looking outside for what's really missing inside. Stuck in a rut, fear, you know, same job, same thing, relationship, afraid to move out of it, but there's no soul food there. It could be anything. No soul food. And what I mean by soul food, there's no joy. There's no get up and go, I love this. I'm so happy I'm doing this because this is who I am and what I am. But we're stuck in a rut, and we can see we're in a cage, but we're afraid to move out of that cage because we don't know what's going to happen. And all that will happen in that cage when we're stuck in that rut, in a way, is going to lead to illness in some way or other, because disease. And it's because we've lost part of ourselves. We don't have that confidence or that energy. We're not whole. We're not full in ourselves. We're not able to move forward. So the fear keeps us down, and we feed off that fear. I just said it a few times. Looking outside to feel what's inside. That's trying to grasp, you know, lots of times, you know, you hear women say, I'm going on a shopping spree, I'm going to do this, and often buy all these dresses and things, and guys go and buy these Hilfiger stuff or whatever you call it, and it's to spend money, is to make you feel good, but that's bringing outside stuff in, outside to fill you inside. And I know that one myself because I've been there as well. It'll fill you inside for a little while. It gives you joy. But then that joy dissipates and it's gone. And then you're looking for something else. So that means there's something inside in you missing again. It's a part of you. Absolutely. You're just looking, craving for that aspect of you. Now, we can go along in life for quite a while, you know, with our addictions, with holding on in that dead energy, playing out the multiple personalities, maybe a little bit of sickness, stuck in a rut, and we get away with that for a while because, you know, that's our conditioning and that's our way. But all of a sudden, something will happen. Something always happens that will trauma something that will make us look deeper within ourselves. And sometimes when we have to look deeper within ourselves to see what's going on, you know, we don't like to look in the mirror. We don't like to face the truth about ourselves. Sometimes it's easier to run, but that missing and that ache will always be with you, completely empty. That's like being soul dead, and that's just that emptiness in you. As I said to you, getting up in the morning, just go to work, feed the kids, wash the dishes. Maybe I'll go for a walk. But there's no joy, no, as we call it, no soul food in it. The other thing is not being present. It's always, you know, someone will try to talk to you. You're not even there. You're gone away. You're maybe way out in the future, or maybe you're way back in the past, and your energy is connected to them things, or connected to an issue, connected to a trauma, or the trauma is in you and you're trying to escape out so that you're not being present within your body. Lots of times, you know, when people go through the traumas, I remember one time talking to a guy, a Navy SEAL, and I was saying to him, you know, how do you sleep in the sea at night? How can you do that? And he said, I just learned to leave my body and just let it be and look down on it. And when we come across in the morning, get up or get out of the sea in the morning from the waves and things, come back into my body and I be again. And lots of times people that go through trauma as well, you know, especially abuse, and God love them. I've dealt with lots of them now, and they're outside their body, and they're looking down on the energy. They learn to stand outside their body or be outside their body and look down on it, and when the energy is over, come back into it. So that's the way of not being present, but also in the here and now. Is we're either stuck out in the future or we're stuck back in the past. We keep replaying the thing. Feeling of being lost, not belonging, square peg in a round hole. I've been all in, and you feel you don't belong, that no one loves you, that you're alone, and no one understands you, and all these things come up for you because again, there's part of you missing. You don't understand yourself, and again, what you're actually doing is grabbing outside for what's lost inside. It's like someone drowned and we're pulling a lost, totally lost. That's the one. Depression is a big one now. And I remember when I went through, as I say, my depression, you know, that was one of the most, it was one of my biggest teachers, in that, you know, but you're down to the real dark place and that deep place of humility, because there was nothing else left. But I believe the reason why I suffered depression, it was an awakening in a way, but also it was the way I perceived the world up to that point in time. All of a sudden I started to realize that things were different. And, you know, that brought a lot of fear. And about a lot of different energies, so that there was a lot of stuff I had to let go of. So, you know, like as earlier on said, I was holding on to my beliefs, I was holding on to my fear. Basically, in a way, I was stuck in a rut. But all of a sudden, I realized there was a wake up, and in that wake up, there was a realization, and that realization brought a lot of fear and a lot of stuff, and into a real deep healing process through depression. And in that depression, you know, there was a lot of work to be done and soul aspects to come back. Accidents is another one, and dealt with some of them in a way that you've often heard people say, you know, that person is never the same since that accident. They're not themselves. The reason for that can be, I remember one night a girl coming to me quite a long time ago for a healing, and she sat down in the chair and I could see her standing behind herself. So I said to her, and I didn't see this before, you weren't in an accident by any chance? She said, oh, well, she had a bad accident, but you're out of it and all this, yeah, the usual. And she basically, her soul was standing outside her body. So she had a complete soul loss. And she was out of sorts big time. But you see, when that happens, sometimes what happens, another soul comes into their body. And her soul couldn't get back. So there had to be an exchange of energy whereby we had to release that soul from her and bring her soul back into her own soul. And that happened through trauma, through accidents, that can happen. But it also can happen like when people are out of body in a hospital having an operation and stuff, where you kind of leave your body and there's a near-death experience and all that kind of stuff. That can that can happen, that something else comes back in. So just to be aware of that. But that's another part of soul loss. And that's, to me, is a whole aspect of soul that's been lost. So that's a big medicine to bring back that thing. Memory loss. Memory loss comes from the trauma, and there's aspects of that time when you were being traumatized in some way or other. You can't remember it. In my own personal experience, one of the things was when I was in Lebanon with the Irish Army, we had an incident, and there's aspects of that I remember, and there's parts of it I don't remember. And when I meet other guys that were in that situation with me, some of them remember. It's kind of like putting a jigsaw together, because there's some parts, but I believe that, you know, it was suppressed. So, you know, it led to post-traumatic stress and all that kind of stuff with me, and there was a healing through that. And again, there had to be, I'll be talking about it later, warrior retrieval aspects of me had to be brought back into me to make me whole again. Abuse, I've talked about that. Abuse doesn't have to be just sexual. It can be bullying. It can be different aspects of it, and we'll be looking at that later in different aspects of levels of what we call power loss, not belonging, you know, feeling lost again, square peg in a round hole. And lots of times when we're not belonging, we don't belong with ourselves for a start, but we're also, you know, it also can be part of our spiritual growth. And we're looking everywhere to see where we can belong, but there's a part of us that's gone from us that doesn't belong to us anymore, and we need to be to bring it back. So, you know, there's other aspects, and they're all related to trauma, really, that brings you back. But these are a few that I put together just to give you an insight and maybe an awareness that if you're suffering from any of these things, if you're honest with yourself, in a way, maybe you need a healing around it, and you need a bit of soul retrieval. Okay. The different types of soul loss. When I talk about soul loss, I talk about soul loss. And this, soul loss there means to me general soul loss. What's general soul loss? It's an aspect of when we come into a trauma or face a trauma or something that really terrifies us in some way or other, or traumatizes in a way, an aspect of our soul will leave our body, because it can't, that pain is too much for it, and it leaves us. This is the way it was explained to me. Now, if you're a year old, if you were a baby, 2 years old, 10 years old, 20 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, that soul part will go at whatever age you were. And that's the way when we go to the worlds, we will see that soul part. But invariably, lots of times when we're looking for the original hurt that caused the actual soul, that part of you to go, that's the first part that I look to bring back, because I believe out of that, all the other splinters can be put back together quite easily. And sometimes when I go into the worlds to get the soul part, I might get 3 or 4 different parts of a soul, and we're able to put them all together and bring them home. So, you know, that's what we're looking at. It's the aspect of you that's missing, general soul part. So the next one is power loss. What's power loss? That's part of your soul as well, and part of your power. Now, lots of times when people are abused, like bullied, or, you know, at work, people try to take their power in a way that this person is under the control of the person. What actually happens is that person has taken your power, and they have your power, and they hold on to it, and you're powerless against them. So that's another type of retrieval we have to bring back to you. We have to journey to that person, to that energy, and dead or alive, and, you know, bring back that aspect of you that belongs to you. And when we bring it back to you, it gives you back your power. Now, lots of times too, in bullying and in stuff like that, we also work with the guardian animal. And this is an animal that we journey for. And this animal comes for your protection. And when it comes for your protection, it protects against power loss and things like that. So that when someone tries to bully or take your power away from you, what actually happens is this animal won't let them do that. But lots of people have given their power away to people. So shamanically, it's a thing that we can do. Warrior and goddess loss. I just touched on this a few minutes ago when I talked about the energy of the warrior being in the military and being traumatized and going through the energy of trauma through the actions that happened to us and against us. So when that happens, you know, in my own personal experience again, that led some of that action or some of them events, not the particular one I'm talking about now initially that I was telling you about, led to post-traumatic stress and all that kind of thing. But when I looked into post-traumatic stress and stuff, lots of times in post-traumatic stress, and this is my own, but the warrior energy and the goddess energy as well, which is the energy to do with the woman that drove, was the leader, you know, was trying to change things for people. And lots of times when these people did these things, they didn't get the recognition for it. And I always remember John Hume, the great job he did in Northern Ireland, and how he was the broker of the peace. And, you know, when they all got together then to bring the peace, he was kind of shoved aside. So his warrior energy wasn't recognized. And whatever women, Moland, I think, was very strong to the poor. So she was the goddess energy and that kind of thing, and really driving it, but they were kind of pushed to the side. So the goddess energy and the warrior energy, you know, wasn't recognized. And I know in my thing, and it's not ego, I'm saying this, but I've read this since because I've done a bit of research on this type of thing, especially post-traumatic stress, is that when people come back from these places, if they're not recognized and able to tell their story, they feel they're not wanted. And in their way, they've made a sacrifice. You know, you've put your life on the line, but no one cares. And the only one that visits the graves of the people that you've been with that didn't come back are the ex-soldiers, you know, or the ex-warriors or goddesses people, and the families of them people. And their energy is kind of lost. But where in the Indigenous people, what they actually do is, when an Indigenous person comes back from a work, a man or a woman, whatever, where they've been in a place of, you know, where they've been trying to fight for something in one way or the other in their beliefs, they will sit with the tribe and they will share it. And when they share that energy with the tribe and with the people, what actually happens is it becomes the energy of the tribe, but they're also seen for who they are and for what they've done. So it's a very, very big thing that's never looked on a lot of times, to look for the warrior or goddess energy that has been lost through people, you know, taking up belief systems to fight for stuff and have been forgotten and maybe not appreciated in a way. Soul fragmentation. This is a big one with me now. When I talk about soul fragmentation, I talk, you know, you could well say to me, soul fragmentation was when part of the soul leaves the body. Soul fragmentation to me is different. Soul loss is when an aspect of your soul leaves the body. Soul fragmentation to me is this. I remember doing a journey one time for a woman. She was going through a lot of health issues. Things were really, really bad for her. She used to come to me every couple of months and we'd do some work. Till one day I journeyed for her. And I believe that when they're ready, when she's ready, the soul part is ready, I was brought into these worlds, right? And I met this little girl, a little soul part, beautiful little girl. And I've talked about this one in another thing I did on YouTube, but I just wanted to revisit it again and just to tell you. And she said to me, I can't come back with you. And I said, why? She said, because there's another part of me over there and I can't get to it. The guards won't let me through, or the police force or whatever they were, the people that manned the border. And in this place, this little soul part was very barren. There was no growth, there was no nothing. So I said, listen, let's go together and we'll get it. And I got on a horse and she came with me. And when we came to the thing, they tried to stop us, but we were going through. So when we got through the border, let's say, and we started to go into this other land, the land was full of lushness. It was full of beauty, health, wealth, and everything. And down at a waterfall, there's another aspect of this little girl, same age, identical. And what I learned in that moment was that whatever this woman did in another lifetime was very, very powerful. So when the soul part she lost, the soul was fragmented in two places. One place they thought we'd never find, and the other place should only bring half her soul back. So even though when you bring the soul part back to her, you know, to him or her, that person would never be full. So they could never rise to their full power again. So, you know, that's one thing about soul fragmentation. The dark energy sometimes can split the soul in two. So sometimes you're bringing back an aspect of soul. You think you're bringing back the whole soul. You're not. You know, there can be another part somewhere. So that was a big teaching and a big lesson for me. Another story around soul fragmentation was a young lad that every time he went to bed, he was getting banged in the bed at night and scraped and scratched and everything. And this young fellow was amazing because, you know, he didn't get him mentally. But anyway, he called the soul Diego. And I've told this story many, many times. And I just think that young fellow to me is a little hero. Anyway, he could see him from his waist up. So when we went into the journey to connect with that soul part, he and that soul part had another lifetime in Brazil, and we could see them around the fire. And Diego, as he called them, had done something to the tribe that had dishonored the tribe. They split a soul in two. So his legs were missing, from his hips down were missing. So he could never reincarnate again. And his soul would wander all the time. So the reason he had been hitting his little buddy in this life now still was because he was looking to get himself back together. So eventually we brought him together and made him whole and was able to move him on. And then the young lad was at peace and everything was okay. So it worked pretty well for him. This one. It's just complete soul loss and out of body. Complete soul loss and out of bodies, I kind of touched on that already. It's really to do when there's a crash or a really extreme trauma or something, the person goes straight out of body. It could be like they had a near-death experience, they've been in a coma, they have been unconscious in their body, their soul has left. But lots of times when that energy, when that energy comes into their body, their soul part can't get back. So just be aware of that. The other thing I just want to touch on soul loss for a minute, on the first one again, is lots of times when I'm doing soul retrieval, and this made me aware of this energy, and I'm just watching the time, so I'm wandering away. Sometimes I see a grandfather or grandmother coming back with a soul part. And I used to say, wow, isn't that lovely, the reason they're doing that? But you know why they do that? Because when they died at that time, you had a connection to them. And part of your soul went with them. And sometimes they come back, a father, a mother, or a grandfather or grandmother. So to the shamanic people out there, that when they're working with the thing, if that kind of thing comes up, just know that when that person died, that little child or person had a real good connection with that person, and the soul part went with them. And the reason the grandfather, grandmother, father, mother took that soul part with them was because they had a big, strong connection with you as well. And they just wanted to hold on to you for a while. And then when you were ready to receive it back and gone through the boning process, they brought it back to you. Okay. Now, I said I wanted to talk to you about the cauldrons. You may ask, what are the cauldrons? I just think push this over here a minute so it won't be in the way for you. Yeah, okay. So that you can see the cauldrons. Okay. Oh no, I don't want to mess now with that. That's good enough for me. Okay. Okay, what are the cauldrons? The cauldrons are energy power points, our energy sources within ourselves. And we talk about them in 3 different cauldrons. We talk about the lower cauldron, the middle cauldron, and the upper cauldron. And when the 3 cauldrons are upright like that, it means they're all in balance. Lots of times when there's trauma in our life, you know, be it this life or other lives, what actually happens is the cauldron can tip. It can be upside down, it can be to the left or the right, it can be different ways. And the 3 different cauldrons could be in 3 different positions. So there's no actual flow. So when we balance the cauldrons, like we talk about the lower cauldron first, just to give you an example of it, it's governed by a power animal. So we ask the power animal to come and to help us to balance that cauldron and to bring it back upright. It's black. And it's to do with our ground and our strength, holding our strength and our grounding within ourselves. The middle cauldron is to do with soul shepherd and his power and passion. It's power that we hold, and it's also our passion for life. And as we were talking earlier on about the different aspects of getting up in the morning and having no what you call no passion in our life, no go. So lots of times that can be, the cauldron can be out of sync. And the soul shepherd is the guardian of the middle world in it, and he or she will balance that cauldron for you. Spirit guides the middle cauldron is red, and the upper cauldron, the black one, the white one, is the connection to spirit, and spirit guides. It brings wisdom and connection from above. So when that's tilted upside down, we don't have connection to spirit, we're kind of soulless. Also, the wisdom and the energy is not flowing through us. So what we do when we balance all our cauldrons, we call them Father Sun, and we fill the energy with the sun from one flows into the other, right down and into the ground to bring a flow. We also bring the earth energy up, the dark blue energy, into the lower cauldron, middle cauldron, and upper cauldron, and connect it with the sun. So heaven is connected to earth, and earth is connected to the thing. So when I blow the soul back in, first of all, how do I use the cauldrons? I make sure they're balanced, because I know that when, or I assume I know, that when the cauldrons aren't balanced, how do you balance them? How do you know they're not balanced? You will know intuitively, or you can douse for them. And the lower cauldron is in the lower belly. The middle cauldron is in the chest up here, and the upper cauldron is in the head. And just douse and call on the different archetypes to come and to balance the cauldrons. So when you balance the cauldrons and fill them with the golden sun and the dark blue light of the earth, there's a flow between heaven and earth, because remember that they have been distorted through trauma. And what we do is we balance them. So when I blow the soul part back into the person, I actually blow it into the 3 cauldrons. I blow back the power and the strength it has taken from the person. I blow back in the passion and the power. And I also blow back in the connection and the wisdom from spirit above. So I blow it into the 3 centers. And I've been doing that for quite a while. So I'm just sharing that with you, that hopefully you will look at the cauldrons and you will bring the energy, balance their energies, and you will work with them. Now, Okay, let's see what happens here now. So how do we heal soul loss? Okay, so how do we heal it, right? First thing when the person comes, for the energy and for the healing, always make sure, you know, if the trauma is there and it needs to be healed, it needs to be healed, first of all. When I do that, or when the energies that work with me do that, I should say, I do that, I do nothing. I will always check, as I said to you, with the cauldrons and make sure the cauldrons are balanced and that there's a flow of energy with the cauldrons. You can do that. The best way to do that, I believe, is to put them on a plinth and just check over it and do it with the dowsing. So then we set our intention that we are going on a journey, and we go on the journey to collect the part or parts of the soul that are missing. I said to you earlier on that, you know, I try to go and look for the soul part that's the original hurt. And I believe by bringing that back, it repairs a lot of things. There may be other splintered parts or parts of soul that need to come back at another stage, but they won't make as big as impact. They're really putting person back. And then when you're out there, just check that that soul part is not fragmented in a way that another aspect of it is hiding somewhere else, that it's been split by the energy so that that person could never be whole again. So we journey for the soul parts. We set the intention for the journey, and we journey to the worlds to where we will meet with that soul part. We talk to us, tell us it's ready to come back. Sometimes you have to cajole it a little bit, but you bring the soul part back from your journey, and you blow it in. You blow the parts. If there's one soul, two souls, or maybe three, or sometimes what happens with me, the 2 or 3 souls will go together as one. Maybe 2 years old, 6 years old, and maybe 10 years old, they become one soul part. So they do a soul retrieval on themselves to become one. And then you bring it back and you blow them in. I blow them into the 3 aspects of the person, to the lower cauldron, to the middle cauldron, and to the upper cauldron. Because, you know, it makes sense when you think that when that soul part left that person, you know, part of their strength or part of their grounding went, definitely part of their passion and power was gone. And in some way, their connection to spirit. Because if you're not present within yourself, or you're always looking out, how can you connect to spirit? You're in that thing. See the portals that we have opened. So when we open the portals to blow them in, and you know, a nice way I like to do it is to imagine that there's a flower on the lower cauldron, the middle cauldron, the upper cauldron, usually roses, and get them to imagine that the sun is shining on them, so the rose opens up into a beautiful flower in the tree, and then that opens the portal into each of the different segments. You know, the black cauldron, the red cauldron, the upper cauldron, and you blow the soul parts in there and blow in with intention. And then when they're finished, you can ask them just give them a few minutes to let the energy integrate with their body, just accept it back within themselves. Then ask it to close. Just ask them to see the roses closing, so they seal the portals. Celebration and honoring the soul parts. Soul part or parts, very important. Always when you're finished, you know, say if a person is 4 or 5 years of age, for example, they might have liked bullseyes or maybe an ice cream or something very simple when they were that age. So that gave them joy, right? But then say around that age, they had a soul loss, part of their soul were missing. So that soul goes away. All the soul remembers is the trauma. By asking them to remember something, it could be like walking in a certain place, it could be dancing, it could be music, it could be anything that gave them joy, that triggers that joy. So if they can reenact that thing again, excuse me, if they can reenact that thing again, what it actually does, the soul part, when it's in, remembers the joy that gave to the person, then it knows it's okay to stay and it will stay. If you don't do that, the soul part tends to leave again. It's a beautiful, beautiful energy. I remember getting a soul part back from the 14th century. And it came back to me. I'd lost a long, long time. And I kept saying, this is a tar road. Look at it. This is electricity. This is cars. This hasn't been here since you left. So, you know, that's a sure sign if you find yourself talking to it and giving it a reassurance, you'll know, but you will feel different and you'll feel a lot fuller. And this is what this is all about. So quick examples, because I know I'm off in 2 minutes, of soul loss. Soul loss, general soul loss is where the soul part leaves the body and where the shaman journeys out for it, very simply brings it back, blows it into the body as I've described, and it makes the person feel full or whole again. But, you know, it's work in progress too. People think sometimes when they come to you that when they get soul, it's the end of everything. It's not, you know, it's bringing back the aspects of you. We're doing one for a person, just to tell you, and this person was going through a lot of stuff. They had a lot of problems with gas, smells, if you painted a place, all this kind of stuff was going on. And they were so sensitive to it. But what happened with them was there was an aspect of them still on the battlefield in the First World War. There was a soul loss from that place that we had to bring back. And they were in the first German gas attack that came, and their memory was still there and the fear was still there for it. But within 3 days, there was big changes from them. So it's very simple. Fragment soul, I talked a lot about that. And I don't think I really need to say much more, but just to know that there can be aspects of the soul fragmented. And it means that the energies or the beings, you know, the negative beings, I believe lots of times when that happened, that person had been a very powerful healer in another lifetime. And what actually happened is they said, hey, he's not coming back, or she's not coming back to do the same thing again. So they split the soul. And I've seen it where, you know, sometimes you'll be trying to send the soul parts to heaven. I've seen the dark energies come and trying to pull them away. And then when they do, they can empower them in their way. That's another story, but just to tell you that. The warrior soul energy, in my own experience, I had done this with Martin Duffy. And in the journey was I had been in 7 different lifetimes where I'd been a warrior, but my energy as a warrior was never recognized. And a lot of my life I was going around looking for recognition. You know, if you give me a check for $1 million, I said thanks. Thanks meant more to me because I was looking for recognition. And little did I know that by looking for the recognition, what I was looking for was the warrior energy in me that hadn't been recognized or hadn't been acknowledged in some way. And when I did that journey, I ended up at a big fire, and all the different aspects of the warrior energy came to me, and they were putting medals on me to give me recognition for that aspect of them lives and whatever. And that sorted that out. I never looked for recognition again, just brought peace into my mind, just to share that with you. Soul loss in the afterlife is the last thing I want to talk about. I kind of talked about the grandfather, grandmother energy coming to back with a soul part, because in a way, when you lost them, there was soul loss to you, but they had an attachment to that soul. So they brought that soul with them and held on to it for a while. And then when you were ready to receive it back, and also when they were ready to let it go, they came back with it, and it's beautiful when that happens. That's really the thing. Also, you know, lots of times with spirits in that other world, you can also find that the spirits have soul loss in the other world. They're waiting for their soul part to come back. And sometimes they're waiting for you. Lots of times when you're doing work with spirits on the other side, you will see them. I often see a woman, right? And she'd be waiting in a field. Now, it can be that she lost children, had miscarriages. That's also an aspect of it. But just remember, in that trauma too as well, there was soul loss. Part of her went away with them. So when you bring back the children to her, there might be an issue where you have to bring back the soul aspects. And when I'm doing the soul aspects there, to bring back the soul, just ask my guides to do it, and they look after it. So then when she goes with her little kids, but she also goes home whole. And, you know, that's a very short quick synopsis of my experiences with soul retrieval. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I know I'm nearly finished, so I don't want to take up much time. And thank you for being on and listening to us. And I hope you've got something out of it. And if you have any questions, info@pathwayteaching.com is our email. And if you want to check us out, go to our website, pathwayteaching.com. Thank you very much. And I'll just stop the share now. And thank you for listening. And I hope you got something from it. And if there's a chat or two, hold on, I'll see. Oh yeah, so helpful. Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you, Paul. That was lovely. Louise Kane in New York. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, okay. Thank you. That's good. So listen, lads, have a good day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. And thanks to Freddie for making this, possible and keeping up the good work and keeping us together. And we'll talk to you soon. God bless you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.